Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Sometimes you know people and you see them on social media, you engage with them, you interact, and you're like, you're those social media friends. And then you actually get to hang out and break bread or hop on a call and have a really cool conversation. And it starts to level everything up. Well, today I am joined by one of those people that was just absolutely leveled up because we spent time on the phone working on his podcast. And then we were able to actually break bread and talk shop about podcasting and real estate investing in life. And it was absolutely amazing. And so I am so stoked to have you on the Conscious Investor right now, Chris. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Julie. I'm really excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really interesting when I think about, how we met and just, it's interesting how relationships develop over time. And I really think what for me was one of those areas where it just shifted aside from just knowing you was hopping on that call and talking about your podcast, and it was so I just remember getting off of that call being like, that was so much fun being able to take everything that I learned and to help somebody else out.
Yeah. Well, I know we joked a little bit about this, but so I first was in one of your book club meetings, and the topic at the time was the branding book. I actually forgot the title. Story Brain. Yeah. And so that definitely got me thinking. And so I reached out to you to have a call because I had this great idea for a brand. And I was like, I'm going to call Julie. And we got on the call and I was excited and all pumped up. And you're like, I don't know if I like it, and then we kind of went and had a great conversation, and you completely changed kind of my direction with my brand, my name, and what I was doing in a positive way. And so I'm super appreciative of that. And it was a great conversation.
It was. And what I love about that is that exchange with relationships where it takes courage to speak truth and to say, I think there's a better name out there, and then it also takes courage to receive that and to hear it. And so, I mean, that right there to me is a cornerstone of any type of relationship, is to be able to, as I say in the book club, can you see the person and can you be seen, and to know that all things are coming from the best points. So
yeah, no, it's such a great point, because I do know that, there's lots of people, you'll go share an idea and they're like, oh, it's great, I love it. Right. But they're not really giving you the feedback. They're just telling you what you want to hear. And, funny enough, I thought a little bit about this afterwards. It was just kind of a reminder of, right, we always talk about the people you surround yourself with, but, you have to think about, all right, well, there's the people that I surround myself with, and then there's the people that I surround myself with that I can really count on to give me real feedback, give me insight, because sometimes we're all running so hard and so fast. I mean, it's hard to kind of look at your own performance, what you're doing, and be a good judge. I mean, we're all going to be critical, but we're maybe not a good judge at any given point in time. So those people are so invaluable.
Right. And it does, you're right, because everyone is going at such a fast clip. For anyone to just stop and take time and to give that honest feedback, that it is invaluable, absolutely invaluable. So I have a background in writing. And so I've worked with a lot of editors, and I've gone through that painful process of them just tearing my writing to pieces, and so, but through that, I learned to love honest feedback. And you're right, so few people will give you honest feedback that when you find it, it's like, oh, okay, that's exactly what I needed to take the next step to level this up. So we got to know about your podcast.
Yes.
You're like hot to trot. You're one of your many conscious pursuits right now, but this is really focused, is this amazing podcast. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. So the podcast name is called High Tech Freedom, and it aligns with just a rebranding of some things that I was trying to do on my real estate side. But the High Tech Freedom is a podcast that is not about real estate. And it is a podcast where I'm still in a W-2 job, where I'm a high tech sales leader. And it's a podcast where I bring on other really successful tech salespeople, regular salespeople, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, to share insights, best practices, career advice, lessons learned, And really, the premise behind the podcast is you first need to learn from the best in order to earn like the best. And then, hey, how do you earn? Once you earn it, how do you take some of those hard-earned commission dollars and redeploy it in ways that'll deliver additional income streams to create that freedom that we're all looking for? Because after 25 plus years in the tech sales role, it's such a fascinating business because people are in it because there's tremendous upside. And they're not necessarily doing it because they 100% absolutely love tech sales. They're doing it because that upside gives them a potential to go chase some other freedom or some other dream that they have. And so, it's been an opportunity, and I didn't initially figure this out, but as I've started to run forward with it, it's been a really unique opportunity for me to bring together three of the things that I'm most passionate about. I love the tech sales. It's fascinating, interesting, always changing, just sales in general. I love the coaching piece because I am a sales leader. So I love working with the people, helping people achieve more than they think they can achieve. And then the real estate piece and sort of blending that together. And in the past, there was like a wall between those two parts of my life. It's just been interesting to sort of pull that together into one platform.
We have a very paralleled path right there, because I've taken, the mindset and the real estate and just investing in life in general, and just like woven those together over life. And this podcast and my brand absolutely represents that. Now, do you find that you were expending a ton of energy trying to keep them segmented from each other? And is it easier now that they're blending? And
yeah, I mean, I would worry a lot about, kind of earlier in my career, being in a sales role, having a manager or VP or whatever. There's a lot of people out there who's like, well, if you have anything else going on outside of your life that, is impacting your ability to go sell more and hit your quota, you're not doing your job. Well, I guess, a little bit of this comes with maturity, but as you realize, everybody has a life outside of work, right? And
right.
if you're not maximizing that, what the heck are you working for?
Right.
As I've started to be more open and expose what I've done on that side, just the amount of people that have come out of the woodwork that are also doing that also have rentals, that have been investing in real estate or pursuing other, with their wife, maybe other side businesses or husband. It's just been fascinating. And so it's been a real kind of eye opener for me of the potential out there to just, it's so much easier when you're open and embracing everything that you're doing and just sharing it versus trying to kind of keep things in silos. That's just stressful and takes too much effort.
That's exactly what I am learning. And I don't know, as you graciously put it, I don't know if that comes with maturity and experience, or maybe it's just total fatigue. I'm not sure, but it's like, why do we have to keep all of these things partitioned in their separate spaces? It's almost like if you're eating dinner and you're not mixing your foods, you can only eat one at a time.
Let's blend it all together.
Let's blend it all together. Okay, this is totally off topic, but an extreme. I saw some comedy spoof and they literally just put it all into a blender. It's like, but that concept of that is life. And I love that you pointed out that people have so much going on outside of their normal job. And you're totally right. Even if you're working in HR or sales, if you're working for a company, they want your whole undivided attention. I've noticed this with my friends that are working for large established companies. So it's interesting. How did you navigate that component? How did you navigate the pressure of, I should be focused here? Because you strike me, as we've gotten to know each other, as someone who's very, very loyal and very focused and determined, to produce the highest caliber everywhere you go. These are great qualities, by the way. So,
oh, thank you. Thank you.
But, how were you able to navigate that earlier on in your career, or how did you grow through that?
Yeah. I think just part of my personality is that whatever I'm going to take on, I have to find a way to over deliver. And if I'm not over delivering, I'm probably either A, not very good at it, or B, just don't like it. So if it comes to like a household project, I never over delivered because I don't enjoy it and I'm probably not very good at it. But, at work, one thing I do share with quite a few people that are sort of in that realm of a W-2 and maybe doing real estate is, hey, look, if you're saying to me that you want to go jump in full-time into real estate, you just need to be very careful to make sure that, hey, are you leaving, running from something to get to something. And if you are, you're already looking to start an entrepreneur endeavor with the wrong mindset. You need to go first, figure out how do I go kick butt with what I'm doing, and then create a foundation that you can then rocket into your next entrepreneurial activity. And so I just kind of a little bit of a digression there, but I wanted to share that.
No, I love that.
The thing that I've also tried to be very focused on is if somebody's paying, if I'm still working, first and foremost, that's the priority. I have to deliver and do what they're paying me for. It's just the ethical thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Yep. But the most companies nowadays, it's not it's not necessarily you have to go put in 8 hours. You have to go deliver your project. You have to go deliver the thing that you've been paid to do. And I've started to learn over time that the faster I can do that, the more focused I can be around the things that matter. That actually frees up some time to go pursue and take care of some other things that might be on the side.
That's interesting. This is a conversation I'm having with my 13-year-old on a regular basis. If you just get it done and do it right the first time and do it well and knock it out, you have way more time to yourself.
I feel so great. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So let's just talk about some of those mindset shifts that you've made, in transforming, going from, okay, I want to stay at this W-2 to, full-time real estate investing sounds like a good strategy. What is that mindset shift?
Yeah, well, I'm still in my W-2 job, just to be clear.
Yes.
But
yes.
So part of that, I think for me, the big challenge, or I think the big shift that I went through over time was I've always had a very frugal mindset. And really it's a mindset of scarcity that I've had that's shifted to really a mindset of abundance. And for the longest time, right, I had this financial frugality, and I don't know, somewhere in college, and I almost hesitant to say it, but I picked up this nickname, Frugal Freeman. And you don't need to go. It's not a
bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be known for, quite frankly.
No,
you're not a spendthrift.
Yeah, no, on the financial side, it's probably a good thing. But what also happened was that sort of creeped into other parts of my personality. Other parts of my business. Even take some of the real estate assets we had here in the backyard. Man, for 15 plus years, I didn't want to hire a property manager because it just stressed me out thinking about that 5% that I would give up versus, wow, wait a minute, I could probably make more money, gain some quality of life back, and scale, have more free time to do some other things that I'm pursuing. But I was just always in that kind of pinching pennies mode. From a kind of a non-financial perspective, you take that frugality mindset or that sort of scarcity mindset and combine it with maybe a competitive nature. And it just created for me a really hard time sharing in the professional world. I think in my head, if I share my best ideas, it's going to diminish my value with the company. Well, what I've learned over time is you can share a great idea. That doesn't mean somebody's going to run with it. And then you take that scarcity mindset and then kind of maybe carry it over into my very conservative personality, where I would not share something good that I was doing because I didn't want it to be perceived as a brag or maybe a boast. And I just have always had this: put your head down, do the work, and just let the results speak for yourself. And at some point, I just shifted to more of an abundance mindset. Now, I always knew that I had to invest in myself, but I think what I learned was it's more of a linear path of growth versus if I'm investing in myself and others along the way, you get some economies of scale. I mean, you get exponential growth in your life and just unforeseen benefits that come along with that. And, you might ask, well, how did you figure that out? Right. I mean, where did that come from?
You're right. That's exactly what I was going to ask.
That's a question I would ask myself. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it's interesting because it was all by accident, but at some point I started to want to just get more involved in some charitable organizations. And so I was kind of poking around and checking out different ones and a couple of false starts, but I had some involvement early on with the Ronald McDonald House and some exposures to a program called CASA. And then ultimately 10 years of volunteering with my son's Cub Scout and Boy Scout troop and, eventually becoming a Scoutmaster for many years doing that. And what started to happen was, as I started to surround myself with these new people that were all in the business of giving back and helping and doing other things, that just started to creep into my personality a little bit more. And then that started to creep into my business. And that really just kind of exposed me to this idea of giving back, being more open, be more involved, and it's become a little bit more of a part of my lifestyle now than it was earlier in my career.
It's an interesting thing for me. I noticed I had to make a shift also from a scarcity to abundance mindset in different ways, and I don't think I've ever really dug around into those different facets of life the way you have. It's very fascinating to see how what that underlying philosophy penetrates every part of your life. And that's, very insightful. And I'm going to have to go back and reflect on this personally, as when we're done, recording, because there's, I think, a lot there. And I think those tentacles can they're like a weed,
Yeah.
like crabgrass or something that you have to maybe keep pulling up for a few years before you fully get rid of it.
Well, and what you're doing now, right? I mean, your podcast, the time, some of the coaching, the time you spend with people, when you're giving back, you're in return, you're learning new ideas, you're being exposed to things. I found it's like a cup of coffee, right? You go and you do all this work and you hit highs, you hit lows, but then somebody sends you an email and just out of the blue thanks you for something great that you did, or really gives you a nice compliment. And then you're all jazzed and you want to go do more of it. And it's sort of this perpetual thing that just continues to grow, both in reality and within your mind. And so I just, that's in a way, I guess, what am I looking for when I do that? I love that energy that sort of kicks me in the butt to want to go do more. But I just like that feeling of, and the satisfaction that comes along with it.
It is such a good feeling. And there's, I'm looking over there at my bookshelf. Brendon Burchard's book, The Charge, speaks directly to this. I encourage everybody, if you haven't read that book, definitely go pick it up, read it. But he has one section on there on contribution, and that's the title of the chapter. And he's talking about, the power of contribution, and it's important to be giving back, but it's also important to be part of, if you're working for a charitable organization, to be doing something that you enjoy, and that it's not selfish to be doing that, and that you don't have to go in there and be doing jobs just because I'm going to volunteer. He's like, you should, find things that bring you joy, because you'll show up with joy. But that power in that cycle that it ends up creating and cultivating is really exciting. And that contribution doesn't have to necessarily be through volunteering with any organization. It could be, I speak to a lot of people, a lot of you listeners, you pop onto my calendar and, we have a conversation, and a lot of times I see these light bulbs go on, and it's like, there are lots of different ways that you can give back.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it could be time, money, your brain power, right? You've got a skill that you could share that other people can benefit from.
Yeah. Okay. I have to ask, that leads to the question, since we're on this topic, what's your favorite favorite form of contribution?
Well, so I'm actually in this interesting transition. So I was a scoutmaster for my son's Boy Scout troop for years. And when I volunteered to do that, I had no idea it was going to be almost, I don't know, it felt like a 20-hour-a-week commitment. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of time. And I felt like I had a tremendous amount of responsibility. And so, to my earlier comment, I felt like I had to over deliver. And so for years, I mean, I had this incredible opportunity to watch, these boys go from youth to just incredible young men as they went on this path to maybe earn their eagle, all while doing it with outdoor activities, camping, hiking. And, it was a fantastic opportunity for me to also do more hiking, camping, fishing, really awesome outdoor activities than I ever thought I might do, or really set aside the time to do. But my son's 18 now, and I kept doing it for a little while, but I eventually transitioned out. And so I ended up joining a Rotary Club here locally. And I'm still in the early stages of that. But what's so fascinating about that is they did this presentation where they're like, look, if you're not sure if there's something for you to get involved in that's right for you, let's go over everything. And they had everybody come up that was involved in some committee, and they had like 50 different charitable things that they were funneling through their organization. And it was mind blowing. And so I think one of the areas that I'm going to get involved in is they have a student of the month with a couple different high schools where they bring on just really incredible students that have achieved something interesting, come from an interesting background. They present to a bunch of adults. And so I think I might jump in as a coordinator role for that, since I've got a little bit of experience with the youth leadership piece. But it's still a journey. The one thing that I'm really long term that I'm really interested in figuring out is I think there's such a need out there for that whole youth leadership and life skills type of stuff that is not always being taught in schools. Some high schools, some private schools, you're involved in a really great coaching program. You get some of that, but for the most part, many don't. And I just see so many potential youth out there that have the potential, but they just don't have the mindset, right? They don't think that that's for me. And I actually heard your guest that was on earlier. I think it was they've got the Boys to Men.
Dennis, I've been thinking that the whole time. I'm like, and we should all listen to the episode with Dennis Merelda because of what he was able to do at the middle school where he was, an administrator, and what he's cultivating now is extraordinary. Yeah,
it was so incredible. So I've been working on a kind of a youth coaching leadership program idea for a while. I may not actually create. I think there might be something else out there where I could jump in and be more involved and help them scale. But that is a kind of a longer term idea that I've pretty passionate about.
That's really cool and interesting, just as a sidebar, so it doesn't get lost and the whole world can hear this. But my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday when we were working out, and he's trying to figure out something along the same lines. So maybe there's some synergy there.
Absolutely,
I'll have to connect the two of you up.
Sounds great.
That's really exciting. As we are, like transitioning here in this conversation from, mindset, can you tell us a little bit about your investment journey, and how it's changed you as a person? And I'm also really curious because you've been raising kids throughout your investment journey. And so I'm curious what the byproduct is in their life.
Yeah.
If we can see it yet.
Yeah. Well, I hope we can. So my kids are 16 and 18. So at this point, you should start to have some idea of, where they picked up on. Yeah. So I've been slowly buying multifamily assets with one partner for the most part in my backyard for about 20 years, all the time while I was working. And we had this in my mind, the plan was straightforward. Let's go out over my entire lifetime. I want to buy 300 units, have them totally paid off, and that'll generate all the cash flow that we ever need, more than enough cash that we know what to do with to go give back and kind of get involved in whatever neat charitable things that we want to enable or pursue. And I've shifted that a little bit over time because really it's about cash flow, not units. Right. But so we would buy a building, let it cash flow, never take any cash out, just let it build up a little bit, throw a little bit more in there, buy the next one, do the same thing for 15 years. We never took any cash flow out of the account with my one partner. And, it's just compounding on top of compounding. And so over 20 years, we built up about 110 doors locally, self-managed all of that. And it's been such an incredible journey because while I'm out of the self-managing business now, it's been fascinating because in doing that, I met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tenants that I've gotten to know over the years. And we've had some tenants that have been with us 10 plus years. And it's just been fascinating to see how I've got to know some of them or maybe touched them a little bit along the way. And, I've had one tenant that built a really awesome, beautiful wood. He was a woodworker, so built a beautiful bar in my basement of my house. And I had one tenant that turns out he was a DJ. And he and his buddy have the longest running podcast based in Portland, Oregon. They've been around for years, 2,000 plus episodes. And so shout out to Oh So Fresh. He also gave me some podcast tips and advice. So that's been a fun journey. But one of the things I was looking to do is how do you living in Portland, living in Oregon? It's not the most landlord friendly market, or the West Coast, if you look on a bigger scale. And so I've been wanting to diversify outside of Oregon. So at some point I was like, it takes as much time to manage a 5-unit building as it did a 20-unit building, probably the same thing for a 100+ unit building. But if I'm going to start looking outside of Oregon, I need to go just look bigger to get economies of scale, and I need to go find some partners. And so that kicked off this journey of, really intentionally spending more time networking with people that are in the business to figure out, who can I partner with? Where do I want to go work? What markets do I want to be in? And so I've been working on that for a while, and, continue to grow some assets out, mostly in the Southeast right now, but kind of just starting to develop, the start of a really cool team with 2 other individuals, all totally different. Incredibly different, but that's awesome because we all have different lanes that we can kind of run in and bring tremendous value to the collective group.
And the different is, I think it's just absolutely foundational, because that different perspective, it's my husband and I just in our marriage have very different perspectives, and it helps us make better decisions because now we're not just seeing it one way. We can see different facets, and
yeah, totally.
So critical in any partnership, no matter what it is, from marriage to business to asset man, to a GP team. It's really important to have a variety of eyes and perspectives.
Well, it's so funny because one of my partners, he was an engineer, and I'm a salesperson, so I start talking about something, and I'm kind of laying out the details or the big picture. He goes, "No, Chris, just give me the bullets. Just give me the 3 bullets." He just wants the facts.
Yeah, just lay them on there, boom, boom, boom. And I've been told that by some partners in the past. So some people, I'll send an email and it'll strictly be bullet points, like boom, 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 here you go. I know that's how you process it. I'm going to deliver it how you need it. Love it.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely love it. So what do you think the effect has been, on your boys?
Oh, yeah.
Who are now young men.
Yeah. So I have an 18-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. And
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So it's been good. I tried to involve them over the years, and early on, it's tough, right? They're like, I don't want any interest. But I remember taking my daughter. We bought, just sort of not the normal purchase, but we bought a repossessed house from a buyer that had just sold us an apartment building. It was his father that had this house, and it was a mess. We bought it for $50,000, but I mean, it was piles of trash and rats and had drug people in it. And so I took my daughter over there just to walk her through it. And, because, they're in a little bit of a protective world. So I've always been trying to give them some exposure to the bigger world out there that, hey, you have it pretty good, but, this is how a lot of people, this is life, right? There's people in all different scales of the economic system. And, it's good to appreciate what you have where other people are at. So I just tried to expose them to that initially. And then over time, I got my son maybe out there mowing some lawns. I would send him out to go pick up all the quarters from the laundry machines. And I think the thing that he's sort of picked up from the whole process now is, like all of his high school friends, they have jobs. He's never had a job where he has to go clock in and clock out. He's mowing lawns for a couple other apartment owners. He's picking up my quarters. He's doing some other little kind of gig type side hustles, but he's starting to get that mindset of working for himself. And so I'm really curious to see how that plays out over time.
That will be really interesting. And I know already my kids are younger, that they're 13 and 10 at this point, and soon to be 11. And, 11-year-old or almost 11, she already has a business that she wants to start. She's super ambitious, and it'll be interesting. It's on my year plan to, the goals for this year to make sure that we're at least working on that in some capacity to, keep it fresh and fueled. As long as she's motivated, I, want to empower her to pursue that. But both of them, they understand that difference, because my husband and I are both self-employed. So they understand that difference between, clocking in at a job and, right, oh wait, mom and dad are available. They can both drive us to school, or, it's a different way of going about things. Yeah. So I was already showing up for our young ones, but it'll be interesting the path that they choose, because we keep talking to our son, this takes self-discipline. You have to develop these traits if you're going to be successful at this. So
Yeah. Well, you need to get your daughter on the podcast.
Yeah, she will be on the podcast this year. This year, both the kids will come on the podcast
Oh,
for
that's
sure.
cool. Well, I did have a hard conversation with my son, and I said, "Hey, bud, because a big part of the job, right? He has to go pick up the quarters, which drive around a bunch of properties, and then the next step is you got to go take it to the bank, right? You have to go deposit it because I do not want to carry a bag. Now, granted, I should probably have machines that have credit cards, but we know. So he's got to take these bags of quarters to the bank. And what's happened over the few months is I have bags of quarters piling up at my house, and I was like, and so I had a conversation with him, and I said, "Look, I'm going to have to fire you. I'm putting you on plan." And my daughter said, "I'll do it." And so I said, I gave her a shot, and she ran into a few issues because he didn't really transition it well to her. But that was sort of a kick in the butt to say, okay, no, I want that money that dad's given me for this job. And so he's starting to step it up again. But sometimes having that consequence tied to it's not just great having the job, is you have to deliver.
You have to actually do the job. You have to deliver the job. Interesting. My husband just opened his own. We're partners in opening a Remax store, or not store, but real estate office in our local town. So my husband is residential, and I'm no longer. I've been out of residential for a while now, right? Like, hey, commercials, where it's at. I love this world.
Right.
But we gave the kids some different opportunities to earn money. There are lots of jobs to be, put together chairs or desks and this and that. They do a great job, but my son didn't want to do some of the jobs. He's like, no, I'll just let, his sister do it, little miss. And it's interesting. We just told him, like, listen, with that mentality, you're not going to have a job when you're older, because guess what? You're growing up in the world's like more interconnected, and someone in some other country is hungry to work. And so if you're not willing to work and you're not training yourself now, that job's going to get taken away. Where are you going to be?
And I think that the other piece, and I know your kids will see this with you, is even if they're not doing some work for you, but they're seeing how hard you're working. And, because I'm always in my office and I always have something going on. That is invaluable for them, because at the end of the day, it's whatever you do, you have to go work hard. And maybe it's work hard fast, but you have to learn that skill of working hard. And if the best way for them to do it, to learn it, is to see it. And if they see mom and dad doing it every day, that'll rub off.
That's great feedback. That's super feedback. My dad was a very borderline workaholic, but he's a residential real estate salesperson and just absolutely fantastic. But one thing he did that I've carried through with my kids is I could walk into his space and he wouldn't get frustrated with me, and he'd give me his attention.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to do that, but I think that I've actually, over the last couple of years, have gotten to the point where they can come in, and they also know when to be patient and wait. If I put a finger up, like, or if you see fingers typing or something, like, just give me a moment. But
the hand, you give them the hand.
I don't do the hand because they don't know what the hand means, but I'm like, I'll just put a finger up. It feels gentle.
Right.
It feels really gentle. I've never asked anyone this question, Chris, but I'm curious who the most influential person has been in your life. That's a big question. I get it, because there are lots of people, I'm sure, but
yeah. Well, honestly, I probably would say, so my father-in-law was a partner with me on some local assets. And I think I'd probably say him, because when I was, first started working, and I met him, he's 30 years older than I was. He was somebody that had already made it in commercial real estate. He had buildings that he totally paid off in Northwest Portland, bought it when it was sort of a rougher area of town, and then it became a hip part of town. And so I remember during the .com bubble, I was working in tech, and I was, my whole portfolio was tied to technology stocks, and, that cratered. And some of that never came back because those companies went out of business. And I had met him at that point, and I was watching him have this incredible cash flow. And, he didn't miss a beat, where some of his well-to-do friends were, living off fixed income, their stock portfolios, whatever. And they were cutting back on all the things that they really like to do the most, international travel and so on. And so we ended up, we just kind of, at some point, we bought a fourplex together with no intention beyond just buying that fourplex. He was just looking to keep active and keep his mind sharp. And I said, I'd like to go do something as well. So we bought that fourplex. And then we just continued to keep it rolling. And I learned so much from him along the way, not just from real estate, but he, just little things like he would, if he was ever going to meet somebody, he would always do research before meeting that person, right? I mean, it's a sales thing. You should be doing that if you're going to do that with a customer anyways. But, he would go and look them up and be ready to have a conversation, know where they're working, know what's going on with their company. He always put effort into people. And I learned later on in life that he used to read parts of How to Win Friends and Influence People at the dinner table with his kids. And so, way back then, he had a lot of the stuff that we talk about. He had that same mindset. And so I just learned a ton from him over 20 plus years.
What a gift. Yeah. I'm so happy I asked that question. That's just a total gift for your life. But also, as we kind of touched on earlier, it's a gift when you're giving as well. So, I mean, it's a mutual contribution.
Pretty lucky for an in-law, right?
Seriously, that's amazing. That was like, you just won the lottery on in-laws right there. Done. Yeah. That is fantastic. So I want to make sure, because sometimes I am, forgetful. Like I'm like, your two sons, which I know better, but it comes out that way. It's like, no, you have a son and a daughter, but you have, if I'm recalling correctly, you have a meetup group that you run.
Yeah. So we have a meetup at the last Wednesday of the month. And it's a multifamily meetup here in Portland. Right now, it's all virtual, and it's been growing. So we're always looking for great guests. So if there's somebody out there that is looking and like to be a speaker, always looking for interesting topics. But yeah, so I've actually partnered up with the guy in Eugene. He was doing a meetup down there, and since it was virtual, we just he had a Eugene one, I had a Portland one. We're just calling it the Oregon one right now, and that's actually been more fun working with somebody than trying to do it all by myself. Just, it's division of labor. You can brainstorm some ideas. And so I think we're about 7 months into it and continuing to grow.
That's fantastic. All right. It's time for us to scale down here and sign off. But I want everyone to know where to go for your podcast, to check out your investment company and what you have going on. Because you're tearing it up out there. And as I always tell, my listenership is, you don't know who has the next deal that you need to be a part of. And you have to have those conversations in advance. So make sure you connect up. This is everybody's reminder. Make sure, if Chris resonates with you, especially, make sure you go hop on his calendar so that when he has something, you can actually see it. Okay. So Chris, best place for them to connect up with you.
Yeah, I think hightechfreedom.com. You can contact us there. You can also sign up for our newsletter. So we have a newsletter that has both, if you're interested, both sales and real estate tips and insights. So hightechfreedom.com, or on LinkedIn. I'm just Chris Freeman on LinkedIn, and you can find me there. And if any of your listeners out there are in the sales profession or would like to be a guest, I'm always looking for just really successful people. When I can find somebody that's been number one in their company, it's something that everybody wants to achieve. And sometimes when those people come on, they realize, if they can do it, I can do it. I mean, they just, maybe they just had some of the right, behaviors, or maybe they just had some things that they focused on that I can go leverage, but they're just people too. And so I love bringing on those top performers to really expose, even to early career salespeople, what's the potential out there for them, and what do they need to do to get there? So reach out if you're interested.
Oh, I love that. Lots of ways to connect up. So awesome, audience. Please make sure that you do that. Take the time to do that. Also take the time, to rate and review the episode, because that helps other people find the Conscious Investor, and that helps spread the word so that other people can learn and grow and also be inspired. Until next time, live big, love bigger. What's the big deal about investing in apartments? Why is it better than investing in a slew of single-family homes? I've compiled a lot of information on why investing in a multifamily, also known as apartments, will help you reach your investment goals. Head over to 3keysinvestments.com and download the Why Invest in Multifamily guide today.